What is going on today, guys? Welcome back. We are back in the shop. It is Monday. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. So we got one goal for tonight, and that is to try and desperately get a bunch of work done on the second gen. We got to get this cylinder head over here popped on this thing, and it still needs a bunch of work. So I just want to kind of open up with you guys a little bit. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background, and I am honestly pretty stressed about it all. We have a lot of deadlines coming up. Specifically, the only thing in the shop right now that doesn't run is the second gen. We need to get this second gen pretty much done to where it can run and drive and get out of the shop probably within like a week and a half-ish. So it's just, there's a lot going on. Bear with me as I kind of fill you guys in on some of this stuff in the upcoming videos. And again, that's kind of why I said some of the videos are going to be a little bit more sporadic, just because of all of the stuff going on in the background. It's all great stuff. It is all amazing stuff. I can't wait to kind of fill you guys in on everything. But the second gen, man, look at this. We got some work to do. So I'm doing my best to kind of keep you guys right along for the ride as everything is happening. So let's just dive in. Enough of that stuff. We'll get to that a little later, but just to kind of update you guys, me and Andy got the doors popped on a little while ago. They're not fully adjusted. The handles, the mirrors, everything is done, but it's kind of just, we just got the doors hung to kind of make some more space. So we do have the grill back. The grill is completely done, wet sanded and buffed. You guys know the mirrors and door handles back here. We're not going to really focus on them tonight, but we also do have the hood back. Hood is done. Mark killed it on the hood. If you guys know anything about painting anything, but the hood is like the first thing your eyes are gonna see, and he spent an amazing amount of time. He spent a lot of time trying to get that thing perfect, and that thing is it's just killer. So all of the paintwork stuff here, the body stuff, all we really have left is the front bumper and the tailgate on the paint stuff, but everything else is pretty much almost ready to be reassembled. We can put the fenders back on. I'm going to try and get a lot of the engine work done before we kind of do all that, so I'm not crawling all over it. So anyway, first up on today is the cylinder head. Well, first off, but the majority is what we're going to be doing is this cylinder head today. So you guys know that this cylinder head was from our good buddies at King Speed, because it's already cut for fire rings. All we have left to do to this cylinder head is transfer all of the stuff on that head. There's a couple sensors, couple things onto this one, and we have to lap the valves in, which was not done. This is pretty much just machined flat. The fire rings cut, has new valve seals, but we do need to. We've done one cylinder. We have not done the rest. You can kind of see the kind of different texture, kind of look on the lip of that valve, and then right down in here, as you can't probably tell, but we need to lap the rest of the valves in, and then put our Hamilton springs, which are sitting right over here. We've got our Hamilton valve springs that we need to install on this cylinder head. Here's the rest of the valves and the fire rings that are cut for the cylinder head. That is what we are going to be jumping right into today. Hopefully we can get the cylinder head back on and get it, maybe even get it torqued down and start reassembly of the rest of the stuff. So you guys probably see, if you guys follow the guys at Power Driven Diesel, the innovative fastener group, the new head studs that just came out, that were just released, are live. You can actually get them on Power Driven's website. These are pretty much the equivalent of a 625, same torque value. The guys over at Power Driven Diesel did a good video on it. They claim that it's a little bit better than a 625, maybe, possibly. So if you want, go check out that video. But these are actually, I mean, price point wise, right now at the introductory rate, these are like a couple $100 cheaper than 625. 625s can get pretty crazy, but hopefully we'll be able to get the Hamilton push rods on. Talking like a mile a minute right now. Valve train can start going back on. So yeah, like bear with me, guys. I am doing my absolute best to try and juggle a million different things right now. So to lap these valves in, we got this hand tool that you would normally use and kind of twist, you know, kind of like you're trying to, with two hands trying to start a fire here. But we went ahead and kind of tapped in like an extra chuck here to kind of put it on a drill because we didn't get one that had a drill end. Finally, the job of lapping all of the valves in is completely done. Very time consuming, but we can cross that off the list. So a little valve lapping compound, a little homemade drill suction cup action unifies the surface between the cylinder head and the back side of the valve here, ensuring that we have a good solid seal. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to tell, but what you're looking for, you know, you just want to make sure that you get a nice uniform throughout the entire diameter of the valve, entire diameter of the actual cylinder head. And once you kind of press this in, after it's kind of been spinning around in there, you know when the valve shuts, it's going to seal nicely. So all of that is done on this 24 valve head. What we can go ahead and do now is flip this over, go ahead and use our valve spring compressor tool, and go ahead put our HAMPTON valve springs on. Spring compressor tool is, that's the 12 valve one. All right, 24 valve one. This should be it right here. This is what we're going to use. Torque Tools 24 valve. There's the part number, 98.5 to present. And this is going to help us install our valve springs. Basically, kind of what we've done in the past while the engine is in the truck. And bringing the piston up to top dead center. Now, what we can do is we actually just lay this on a flat surface, therefore none of the valves are going to drop in the engine. And we can go ahead and throw these on here very, very quickly, swap over what we need to swap on, and then we're getting this baby on. I am confident we are going to try and knock this out, get this thing back on the truck. So seeing that we are reusing the keepers and retainers off of the old cylinder head, all we're doing is replacing the valve springs. Went ahead and got all of the retainers and keepers off of the original head, and we're going to go ahead and kind of transplant these right onto the new head. Boom, 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 boom. And then we're going to kind of repeat the process, kind of wind all the valves down, put the rest of the valve train back together here, and then we are finally, I believe, finally ready to kind of lift the cylinder head in place and get it set back on the top of the block. So went ahead and got the rest of our plugs in, all the sensors are in. This thing is pretty much ready to rock. Besides the valve train, I'm not going to worry about some of the intake plate, the thermostat. I just got to really transfer over the lifting points, and then we can go ahead and set this thing right back on top. We've already kind of placed the firing head gasket on top of the cylinder block. Underneath here, we kind of already prepped the surface for the new head gasket, and kind of see, here are the rings, the actual fire rings. They kind of sit right inside here on your factory head gasket. You can kind of see there's this silver ring inside there that kind of almost looks kind of like what this fire ring is. Not quite the same thing, but this is actually cut out because this solid metal ring is what's actually going to take the combustion heat and everything. So it is two different pieces. Now, Sometimes you can do this differently. Say the block was out, you can actually cut the groove. There are specific machining grooves that these things need for them to be able to crush properly with the thickness of the head gasket. Sometimes you can do half in the block, half in the head. Because this is kind of set up for the block staying in the truck, we did go ahead, well actually I didn't, but it is cut for the full groove thickness in the actual head. So these things are kind of really, they don't really have a whole lot of indication marks or anything. They just kind of sit flat right on top of the deck surface, and basically going to use these indicating rings right here to kind of set the head down on here flat. You don't want to slide this thing around, has to basically come kind of straight down to kind of guarantee that these things are going to sit in the proper groove. So a little bit different than a normal head gasket. If you weren't going to do anything with the fire rings, you would have basically a flat surface on the block, flat surface on the head. Go ahead and reuse, or not, I'm sorry, reuse. Get a new head gasket, flap it down there, and you're good to go. This head gasket style is kind of meant for a little bit more of the power, a little bit more abuse, which obviously we can't stay away from, so that is why we kind of went this route. So that's it. Pretty much we're going to try and knock out the rest of this valve train and try and get this cylinder head sat on top of here. We have muscled the cylinder head over top of the block. We are pretty much ready to set this thing down. One quick tip. What I usually do, especially with fire rings, kind of just making sure that we get this thing aligned perfectly straight and we do not need to kind of move it, shuffle it around to get it centered on those dowels. I go ahead and drop a couple head studs. You can kind of see I have one here, one here. There's a couple. You really only need a couple in there, maybe 3, 4. It really just kind of helps. So when I go ahead and set this thing down, I'm going to try and do it obviously by myself here, which makes it a little bit more interesting. But we're going to go ahead and pick up on this front corner. You can kind of see the back still sitting a little high. So as it's coming down, we're going to try and get it perfectly flat. But the head studs just ensure you don't really, I mean, it's going to come straight down with this many in it. So that ensures the fire rings kind of sit in the grooves of the head perfectly. And that's about it. So all that's really left to do is lower it down, and then we can go ahead and pretty much start with the head studs, getting the head completely fastened down. So besides painting the front cover, the cylinder head is actually back on. Everything went down pretty smooth, went right on the dowels, and we're in good shape. So cylinder head back on the block finally. We've went ahead and got our IFG head studs pretty much in the head, except for this one, so I could show you guys visually what they look like. Not quite the shininess of the ARP 625. They use a Torx head style top, but again, we'll have the 150 foot-pound clamping force. I believe the instructions for these things are pretty much the same. You're going to hand tighten them down in the block. Same procedure with the nuts and washers as far as the lube. Both sides of the washer, top sides of the nut, threads on here. They do use, and I believe a big claim to fame here is this different style. Oh, I had it. I did have it. Anyway, the different style lube that they use, you can see it's got a little bit different color. Apparently better than the ARP. Questionable, I don't know. Again, I really don't have a whole lot of experience with this style head stud. We're just going to give it a try and see what happens. But overall, happy so far. Everything looks good. And we're just going to get to work torquing this thing down. Alrighty, last two at 150. That's it. We are locked down at 150. Everything felt great. As far as, I guess, my recommendation, if you guys are going to ask me if I like them, would I recommend them? So far, so good. Again, all I really did is install one. We haven't really ran a truck, high horsepower. They all felt very consistent. I see a lot of guys, like when they're trying to torque head studs, really, try to start yanking on them. You really want to be smooth and consistent. And it seemed like everything took about the same rotation to kind of get up to 150. Everything felt good. I will say this, the packet, I wouldn't say bottle, I would say the packet of lube that they give you, I'm an overuser, I guess, and sometimes with the ARP stuff, you kind of run out with what they give you. This little bottle with the little head was really, really nice. I felt like I kind of went a little bit faster being able to kind of use this little packet with the little squirter tip on the end, but everything felt good, and that's pretty much it. They do recommend getting this thing up to operating temperature, and then kind of basically doing a hot retorque. With the fire rings, we were gonna do a hot retorque or two anyway, but for now, this can pretty much be reassembled valve train wise, get those power driven diesel injectors in here, and we're really gonna start cranking. I mean, like I said, because of the deadline, things are not gonna kind of get as pretty as they usually do. We're gonna basically be using a black spray paint on most of this stuff to kind of get it looking halfway decent, but get this thing back together and running. So that's pretty much gonna wrap up this video, guys. Again, we'll get into the rest of the stuff in the later video, but that's gonna do it. Hit the like button before you leave, subscribe if you have not already, guys. I'll see you in the next one.